A few of these variants are still regularly played, though none are nearly as popular as shogi itself. The drop rule, often considered the most notable feature of shogi, is absent from most shogi variants, which therefore play more like other forms of chess, with the board becoming less crowded as pieces are exchanged. Predecessors of modern shogi. Some former chess had almost certainly reached Japan by the 9th century, if not earlier. But the earliest surviving Japanese description of the rules of chess dates from the early 12th century, during the Heian period. Unfortunately, this description does not give enough information to play the game. But this has not stopped people from trying to reconstruct this early form of shogi, which is usually referred to as Heian shogi. Piece movements were as in modern shogi, but there was no rook or bishop. The board appears to have been 9x8 or 8x8. The setup is unknown, but can reasonably be assumed to have been the same as in modern shogi. But possibly the pawns started on the second rank rather than the third. It can safely be assumed that the game was played without drops. By the 16th century the game had taken a form closer to the modern game. It was played on a 9x9 board with the same setup as in modern shogi, except that an extra piece stood in front of the king. This form of the game is known as shogi, which means little shogi. The drunken elephant was eliminated by the Emperor Go-Nara, and it is assumed that the drop rule was introduced at about the same time, giving rise to shogi as we know it today. Large board variants. There are a number of shogi variants played on boards larger than 9x9. These variants are all quite old, and were probably all played without drops. Michael C. Vanier says, "It is thought that the really huge games were never really played to any significant extent, and were devised merely so that the creators could have the fun of inventing enormous games, amazing their friends and confounding their enemies." However, the games up to Tenjiku shogi at least appear to be quite playable, assuming one has the time. The same 12th century document which describes the Heian form of shogi also describes a variant played on a 13x13 board, which is now called Heian Daishogi. As with the smaller Heian shogi, the rules for this game have not been completely preserved. The most popular large board variant is Chu shogi, played on a 12x12 board. The name means middle shogi, and the game is sometimes so called in English. Chu shogi has existed since at least the 14th century. There are earlier references, but it's not clear that they refer to the game as we now know it. Chu shogi is best known for a very powerful piece called the lion, which moves like a king but twice per turn. The game was still commonly played in Japan in the early 20th century, but has now largely died out. It has, however, gained some adherents in the West. The main reference work in English is the Middle Shogi Manual by George Hodges. Other large medieval shogi variants were Wa shogi, Dai shogi, Tenjiku shogi, Dai Dai shogi, Maka Dai Dai shogi and Tai shogi. These variants date back at least to the 17th century. Tai shogi was thought to be the world's largest chess variant, but recently records of an even larger variant, Taikyoku shogi, was discovered. The most recent large board variant is Koshogi chess, 19x19, which is played on a Go board and incorporates elements of Chinese chess. Koshogi is unusual for the interdependence of its pieces and the complex rules of promotion. Modern variants. These are some of the new and old shogi variants which have been invented. Time will show which, if any, of the many recently invented variants stand the test of usage and competition from other games, and stay in use.